You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
Good evening. An illegal appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next.
Though Tiffany Henyard has always been able to command attention, it appears that she is in over her head this time around. There are rumors circulating that the self-styled super mayor is quietly working with the FBI to avoid being sent to a prison cell. Could this be her final attempt to avoid the fate that appears to be drawing near her? Rumor has it that Henry has realized her reign is ending and is attempting to bring everyone down with her. However, there's a twist. Henry isn't the only one who finds themselves in hot water.
He continues his exclusive reporting from Dolton.
Therefore, how do we get here? With Henyard leading the charge in Dixon, Illinois, a tiny community that unexpectedly found itself at the epicenter of a maelstrom involving corruption, mismanagement, and treachery only a few months ago, it has been an incredible journey. She was riding high untouchable. She established her reputation as a super mayor who was out to clean up the village while simultaneously serving as the supervisor of Thornton Township and the mayor of Dolton. However, it turns out that it's possible that she was cleaning up in more ways than one.
For a year now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard, but we only knew half the story.
Now, the most bizarre element is that she might be prepared to sell out her allies, the very individuals who supported her, according to whispers from insiders close to the case. She has reportedly been secretly talking with the feds in an effort to reach a settlement and avoid being brought before a judge. Establish her empire with the people who, up until recently, supported her at every turn. It appears that Henyard's devotion has its limits, and now that the walls are closing in, she is prepared to put anyone under the bus in order to save herself.
Up here at this special meeting.
Talk of the town is that two powerful criminal defense lawyers from Henry's legal team, who have defended some well-known figures, are working extra hard to get her the best deal possible. But what does it mean for her inner circle? The same individuals who assisted her in executing what some have dubbed one of the boldest power grabs in local politics are now watching to see if they will be the next to fall from grace.
Well, Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Henyard's rise to power.
She wasn't alone in her ascent to power. A group of others worked behind the scenes, contributing to what is now a full-fledged political scandal. One such person is Keith Freeman. Freeman used to be the Henyard closest to allies right. An individual in Dolton and her valued advisor in Thornton Township. Together, they exercised an iron grip over the village. Freeman, a former village administrator and the registered agent of Henyard's contentious charity, played a key role in assisting Henyard in keeping control of Dolton's funds until he wasn't required to.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
Was accused of filing false bankruptcy and faced federal prosecution. As a result, their relationship fell apart, and Henyard allegedly sought to fire him during a village board meeting. However, the Chuses refused to give up. The fall of Freeman from Henyard's willingness to cut relationships fast when things become sticky is demonstrated by people like Grace. But there are also whispers that Freeman may be assisting with the investigation. If that turns out to be the case, it could be disastrous for Henyard and her entire business.
You know, wrong is wrong, and there's a time to hold people responsible and accountable.
In addition, Al Lacey, a former deputy police chief of Detroit and another important figure in the Henyard circle, was no stranger to scandal. Like Freeman, he had been accused of bankruptcy fraud, but that didn't stop Henyard from nominating him to the position of department head. Like Freeman, Lacey was devoted to Henyard until the federal government arrived, and her appointment to the department, in spite of objections from the village trustees, was simply another example of Henyard's disobedience of her will to keep control at any cost.
It was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. So, but like I said, you have to
Now that Lacey, too, is in the FBI investigation's crosshairs, others speculate that he might be just another pawn in the survival game of the Henyard. Some claim that he received over $200,000 in overtime pay despite not working overtime, and his name has been associated with dubious overtime claims, being qualified to receive that funding. Given that Henyard is currently in significant legal problems, there are questions about whether the timing of these payouts was part of a wider conspiracy. As a result, Lacey may be looking to make a deal of his own.
The township residents are paying for her fund.
And things don't stop there. Former assistant to Henry, now a trustee once thought to be a devoted follower of the supermayor, Carmen Carlisle turned against Henyard as the scandal developed, accusing her of predatory and immoral actions. For the past 2 years, Henyard has allegedly used her position to manipulate residents, vendors, and employees in order to increase her influence and present a false picture of success. Carlisle alleges that this has resulted in Henyard using taxpayer funds for her personal projects and opulent expenses. In a statement, Carlisle claimed that the charge was damaging and that it placed Carlisle at odds with the woman who used to be her inner circle trusting partner. Carlisle's allegations as a whistleblower went beyond mere accusations. She revealed how the Howard administration lavished taxpayer funds on first-class airfare, 5-star hotels, and upscale dining. One trip to Austin, Texas, was said to have cost the village over $20,000, with Howard and her entourage running up tabs at upscale hotels and steakhouse dinners. Not to be forgotten, Howard spent $33,000 on Amazon purchases in a single day. These kinds of expenses are not only considered improper, they are now at the center of the ongoing federal investigation into her misappropriation of public funds.
A one day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon. And the main thing is, what is it?
Henyard's spending patterns have been investigated for months, and village trustees have demanded openness on numerous occasions. The village had a stunning financial collapse that many believe is directly related to Henyard's, with its general fund balance going from a surplus of almost $5 million in 2022 to a deficit of around $4 million by 2024. Spend recklessly, a past mayor of Chicago. The costs of the police had increased dramatically during Henyard's tenure in office, with some officers earning more in overtime than their base pay, according to Lori Lightfoot, who was appointed to look into Henyard's financial affairs. In a single fiscal year, an officer's overtime pay of nearly $100,000 more than doubled his base pay.
Those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead, we have several officers that are riding around.
The Fed's investigation into Henyard's finances is making some people question if this whole disaster will bring down more people than just the mayor. But with so many of her pals already in legal hot water, it's becoming obvious that this is about more than just one person. Nevertheless, this is where things start to get really interesting. It concerns a group of people who have collaborated to benefit themselves at the village's expense, and Henyard is allegedly prepared to accuse them all if doing so will allow her to avoid going to jail.
About this case, this story is you can be highly legal and unethical at the same time.
And at a board meeting, the tension that had been building between Henyard and the village board had reached a breaking point. The village trustees resolved to prohibit Henyard from using credit cards for unauthorized purchases and to impose limits on the amount of money that might be spent on special events, viewed as clear attempts to limit Henyard's power and stop her from going on her extravagant spending binge. But Henyard isn't backing down. She's vetoed several board decisions and is pressing on with her own agenda, even as the probe surrounding her gets more and more intense.
Addressing things as the supervisor, there will be no comments, there will be anything, it will be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
And what about those who, after having backed her, are now criticizing her? Chris Gonzalez, a trustee for Thornton Township who previously supported Henyard, has been outspoken in his criticism of her expenditures. He has criticized her for endorsing events such as the infamous Taste of Thornton that weren't even included in the township's budget. Township event where Henyard paid a big price to musicians for their 30-minute stints despite the fact that the event was a bust and scarcely any people showed up. The performers included rapper Jay Holiday and RBCER Cake Wed. Henyard paid the performers $85,000 for this short concert. Gonzalez's criticism is only another indication of how the Henyard support system's fractures are getting wider.
By the Lansing Journal, trustee Chris Gonzalez said,
"Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily..."
Everyone wonders who will suffer if Henyard sells out her allies, which could end their careers and freedom. The whispers of her possible arrangement with the FBI are swirling. The clock is ticking, and as more information about the Henyard secret discussions comes to light, it's obvious that this tale is far from over. Will Freeman, Lacey, and Carlisle be brought down with her, or will they too make their own bargains to escape jail time? The scandal has already rocked the town to its core, and we can only hope that the next bombshell will drop. But one thing is certain, Tiffany Henyard's days of ruling the village with an iron fist are coming to an end. The only question now is who will go down with her. But first, let's take a step back and examine how Tiffany Henyard got into this mess in the first place. The story of her fall didn't happen overnight, even though it seems like it's getting out of control now that her time in office has been characterized by scandal after scandal. But nothing comes close to the degree of corruption and chaos she unleashed on the village of Dolton. Her reputation as the super mayor was founded on her promises to clean up the town, but it didn't take long for residents to realize that Henyard wasn't actually cleaning up the village. Rather, she was cleaning up the village's bank accounts. People who previously supported her idea of a better Dolton are now witnessing the moral and financial collapse of their town. Given the proof that she is everywhere, it's understandable why Henyard has acquired the moniker Dolton Dictator. Let us begin by reviewing the fundamentals. Mismanagement of finances. This is where Henry's problems started to get out of hand. Not only was she irresponsible with Dolton's money when she took office, but she also handled the village's budget like her own credit card, blowing thousands of dollars on opulent vacations, elegant dining establishments, and five-star hotels.
That's right, John and Terrence. Tonight's meeting had a much different tone than what we've experienced previously at Dolton City Council meetings. Now, the room was full of Henyard supporters, and they wanted me to be sure to tell you that they applauded for her several times as she talked about the township being in a great place financially. Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard.
She and her entourage spent over $20,000 on a 5-day vacation, including over $11,000 at the posh Fairmont Austin Hotel. This was just one trip. Comparable indulgences were recorded on subsequent taxpayer-funded trips. Recall that the trip to Austin, Texas was not simply a quick escape. Vacations in New York, Portland, and Atlanta. In just 5 months, Henyard racked up almost $67,000 in travel expenditures. The village trustees attempted to rein down her spending, but she was having none of it. She even blocked their attempts to look into her spending. Not only was the trip costly, but she also blew $33,000 on Amazon in a single day. To make matters worse, there are no transparent records that indicate how that money was spent, so it's understandable why the village's finances collapsed under her direction by the time former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was appointed. Brought in to carry out a separate inquiry as it was, the village was deeply in debt. Dolton's general fund went from having a healthy $5 million surplus to a startling $3. $5 million deficit, according to Lightfoot's preliminary assessment.
Has also distributed a breakdown of the township's finances from 2017 to current, where Henyard's team says years ago they were in a deficit of more than $2 million. And now, today, under her administration, her team says there's a surplus of more than $6 million.
The way the Edward admin managed overtime pay for the police department is even more concerning. While she was in charge, 2 officers were earning more in overtime than their base pay, with one officer receiving over $100,000 in overtime pay. Keep in mind that this is a village with a population of just over 20,000 people. What possible justification is there for this level of spending? Yet financial mismanagement is only one aspect of the situation. Henry's from the start, it was evident that she wasn't following the rules and was instead creating her own. And her behavior during her tenure in office has been nothing short of ridiculous.
They'll turn up more and more information. They'll turn up more leads. They may turn up more witnesses. They may find a cooperator. They may find an informant, all which will benefit the investigation tremendously.
But based on what we know now, if you're Tiffany Henyard, how are you feeling?
I would be nervous.
Henyard has been charged with consolidating authority over Dolton and Thornton Township, intimidating and retaliating against her opponents, and silencing critics with her influence. One of her most well-known instances of using intimidation was when she gave the order for her personal police unit to stalk locals. Who was brave enough to criticize her personal security, Robert Collins, the former head of the Department of Transportation, even stated that Henyard's insistence on having a big security detail undermined the department's capacity to combat crime. Force, supported by the very taxpayers she was sucking dry, became an extension of her power.
Relates with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
Collins stated that we needed police officers to be out on the streets fighting crime, but instead they were riding around protecting Mayor Heard. Mayor Heard's oppressive methods didn't end there. She also found ways to revenge on her political adversaries. Consider the instance of Valeria Stubbs, a former trustee and outspoken opponent of Henyard. Stubbs' home was shot up in the middle of the night, and even though no one was hurt, Stubbs has consistently claimed that Henyard was behind the attack as a means of intimidation.
Partner says he's been harassed and his business raided and shut down by Dolton police. He believes because he refused to make a donation to a civic event sponsored by Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
And I talked to a couple of agents and I explained them what was going on.
The incident adds to the mounting pile of accusations against Mayor Heard, even though there isn't any tangible proof connecting him to the gunshot. Her actions have gotten so blatant that, in an absurd attempt to mock her, she even recorded herself raking snow from Stubbs' driveway during a snowfall and labeled Stubbs her hater. Many were astonished by her move. People who are aware of Henry's antics, misuse of public funds, exploitation of village resources, and abuse of authority all point to a woman who thought she was untouchable. And for a time it appeared like that, but now that the FBI is on her case, Head Henyard's empire is collapsing. It was just another day in Dolton.
2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as Dolton mayor and Thornton Township supervisor. And now we've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result.
The federal subpoenas served to Thornton Township and the village are a glaring indication that the feds aren't just poking around. They're closing in. These subpoenas are allegedly looking for records on everything from the village's finances to the Henyard Political Fund and even her cancer charity, which, incidentally, has come under fire for its own shady dealings. The Henyard Cares Foundation. The foundation was intended to be a terrible endeavor to aid cancer patients, but like everything else associated with Henyard, it is mired in controversy. Not only has the foundation neglected to submit the necessary financial disclosures to the state, but it also accepted a $10,000 donation from Thornton Township on the day it was established.
The offer to our seniors, and they told us, your card doesn't work.
Now stand in the fight because I want the boys and girls of the next generation to see what it looks like to come out of controversy and to come out of all the hatred unscathed. At the end of the day, God gives the test to his strongest soldier.
However, other records reveal that a large portion of the foundation's costs, more than $1,000, were paid to the village's credit card for lodging, meals, photographers, and even DJs. These revelations have left many wondering, given the increasing severity of Henyard's legal issues, It is becoming more and more obvious that her time is running out, regardless of whether the foundation was ever truly about charity or if it was just another means for her to channel money into her own interests.
All I can tell you that I'm not the one on anything. That's the only thing I can tell you for now. So I'm just trying to answer to the.
So you're saying there's a foundation that's not registered, but it has nothing to do with you?
Correct. That's true.
Okay.
That's
so you're
true.
not aware of any of the work that they've done, money that they've raised, anything along those lines?
The more time that goes by, the more likely it seems that she made a deal with the FBI. This is especially true given the consequences of her being found guilty of the crimes she faces, which may result in significant jail time. It's difficult to think that Henyard will leave this without taking a few others down with her. She's prepared to cut her losses and turn on her allies, but will her agreement be enough to save her? More importantly, what will it mean for the other members of her inner circle?
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993, and she's the best we ever had.
You know, you're doing a lot of programs, good programs for the senior citizens, and you're doing a lot of programs for people who are on a fixed budget. But what about the people, the blue-collar people who are still caring?
This town has already seen rumors that Keith Freeman, her former right-hand man, has been working with the federal government for months. If that is accurate, Henyard may not have as much power as she believes because Freeman's financial mismanagement of the village is well documented. But he's not the only member of Henyard's circle who's having problems. Lacey, the other important person who might be under scrutiny, is the former deputy police chief. What Lacey did to earn overtime pay red flags have already been raised by scandal. And now that he's being charged with bankruptcy fraud on a federal level, it won't be long before the Fed begins to investigate his ties with Henyard.
Thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign.
If Lacey...
The last straw for her might be if she chooses to turn and testify against Henyard. In addition, Carmen Carlisle, the former ally who is now a whistleblower, has chosen to speak out against Henyard, has already caused a stir in the local political scene. But if she has other information on the mayor, it might make her a key tool in the federal probe.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Carlisle's allegations of dishonesty and subterfuge within the Henyard administration are shocking, and her insider knowledge of the inner workings of the organization may offer the federal government the proof they require to shut down Henyard as the inquiry continues. While events transpire, it becomes evident that Tiffany Henyard is no longer at the center of everything. Rather, it's about a network of corruption that has swallowed a whole village, leaving its citizens disillusioned and destitute. The people of Dolton trusted Henyard to guide them, but she instead brought them into financial ruin.
Reached out to the FBI, which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dolton have received any subpoenas or been contacted by the FBI or any other law enforcement.
Although the whispers about Henry's secret agreement are still circulating, one thing is certain: this isn't the last time we hear about Dolton's super mayor, whether she strikes a deal or not. As the FBI closes in, the question remains as to how many more secrets will come to light before the saga is finished. Dissent's combatant, there's little doubt that Tiffany Henson's rainy days are coming to an end, but she won't be leaving unharmed. The only question left is, who will be the next to fall? Share your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to also subscribe to receive further updates on this ongoing story.